Retail shopping centres or malls in townships and rural areas have been a massive game changer for communities, given the spatial inequalities previously created from the design and construction days of apartheid. McCormick property developers who've strictly developed retail outlets in the rural areas and subsequently into townships say such developments make a significant impact.
I love the rural a lot more than the townships because you really you move the needle for community significantly when you're developing retail in the rural areas or places where people previously had to spend 50, 100 rand on taxi fares to get into the urban centres. You really are fundamentally changing the lives of those communities by bringing services to them.
As with urban centres, rural and township malls were hit hard during the COVID lockdown, but quickly sprung back into action soon after lockdown levels were relaxed. It seems that this was a punctuating moment that saw major retailers redouble their efforts to get a slice of the township and rural pie, with the likes of Boxer, ShopRite and Mr Price increasing their presence in these malls. A big driver of demand has been social grants.
So the fact that a lot of people in lower income communities are unemployed is not necessarily a problem, because actually what it means is they have steady and stable income from the grants that they earn. And a lot of these shopping centers also is where people come and draw the money for their grants, and they're able to then make their monthly purchases or do whatever they need to do.
And by some accounts, it sounds like property developers and retailers are experiencing healthy trade levels in these retail areas. JSE-listed Vugile Property Fund says 75% of its portfolio covers both the township and rural areas and notes bustling trade in recent months.
When it comes to performance of the rural and township space, particularly post-COVID, we've seen a very strong rebound. In terms of our segments, over the past month, we released a festive trading update, which effectively looks at our festive trade per segment compared to last year. And our township portfolio grew by 13.2%. Our rural portfolio grew by 7.2% and the urban portfolio by 4.5%. So you can see that across the segments there was growth, but the township and the rural portfolios were definitely leading.
But this operating space is not for sissies. Property developers say the operating environment can be quite tough with layered costs. And the electricity crisis has also been disruptive for property developers and retailers, with the need to invest in renewable energy and generators, for example.
I won't say it's got any easier as a consequence of the tenants coming, because as the tenants have wanted to come, we've had our own problems with services and the battle to get services into these areas. So the costs have gone up exponentially as we've had to provide our own water, our own sewage, all these other things. Even pumps and tanks for the fire service.
McCormick says his company's philosophy to partner with local people and local entrepreneurs has paid great dividends, not just for them as property developers, but the wider community too. Some argue that more work needs to be done to ensure greater inclusion for those operating in the informal economy to get exposure to more formal retail spaces.
You'll note when you are in a township area, there are lots of different, people who maybe have hairdressing salons, who have clothing businesses, who are selling food and grocery products themselves. And a lot of these people are not able to be accommodated in these retail centers for various reasons, because they're not formal businesses, many of them. And so we know also that there's that disjuncture between, what you see in the shopping center and what you see kind of as the organic market in these areas. And we need to close that gap. It's the only way that we are able then to develop these areas and really be and contribute positively.
The consensus among the property experts SABC News spoke to is that there remains scope for property development growth in these markets. However, building is costly, and the current high inflation and interest rate environment may see potential investors shy away for now. Another area of concern is that municipalities need to come to the party to ensure that the areas where retail outlets are located are provided with basic services, and that investors don't need to dig into their own resources to provide that which should be under the purview of the local authority. Nompumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.